Hello, you're listening to ReedyGeeks, a Walt Disney World podcast. My name is Andrew, and I'm joined today by Full House truther JJ.
I mean, people need to know it wasn't a good show.
And Neil Flynn's drinking buddy, Sean.
I'd join him any day of the week.
If you have a good title for my co-host after listening to this episode, please send in your ideas to reedygeeks@gmail.com. In today's episode, we explore some of Disney's most memorable decommissioned attractions. Today we're diving into the world of Disney's decommissioned attractions, from the quirky educational charm of Cranium Command to the mysterious and abandoned Discovery Island and the long-forgotten waters of River Country Water Park. We'll explore these stories behind these beloved attractions that no longer grace the parks. Whether they were ahead of their time or just outgrown, these attractions have left lasting impressions that sparked plenty of nostalgia. So the first decommissioned attraction that we're going to talk about is going to come from JJ. JJ, what attraction are you talking about today?
I'm going to talk about a little place that we know as Discovery Island. Mm-hmm. So for those that don't know what Discovery Island is, there is an island in the middle of Bay Lake that sits abandoned currently. So if you're taking the boat from the Magic Kingdom to Fort Wilderness or the Wilderness Lodge, you drive right by it. So it's on that side. It's not like the Seven Seas Lagoon. It's not, you don't really see it if you're taking the ferry from like the transportation center to the front of Magic Kingdom. But if you take the other boat,
it's on Bay Lake.
It's on Bay Lake. Because that's a little confusing about, where is this stuff? But Discovery Island's an interesting place, especially because it's just sitting there abandoned right now. But it has a long history that I didn't realize. It's basically as early as 1900, there's a family that lives on that island. It's named Raz Island, R-A-Z Island. After that family, they lived there from 1900 to like the 1930s.
Oh, because Bay Lake is natural. Mm-hmm. And Seven Seas
Lagoon is only
man-made.
There because they had to dig out Seven Seas Lagoon to build the Magic Kingdom on top of.
Right.
Seven Seas Lagoon is man-made because they needed that dirt, that land.
But Bay Lake was a natural lake.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So in the 1930s, the Raz family sells it, and it becomes Riles Island, R-I-L-E-S Island, until Disney buys it in the mid-60s. So there's a story that you hear, and I'm sure it's not really true, that Walt Disney is like flying around Central Florida, and he like points at Bay Lake and this little island. He goes, that would be a good spot for a theme park, because it's just like this abandoned, like massive nothingness that's like within 40 minutes of Orlando's airport. So like there are people that think that like the first thing that Walt Disney might have pointed at is like Bay Lake and Discovery Island.
It's a good story.
It's a good story.
Well,
and also, you kind of alluded to this already, Andrew. You always hear the story of how Walt Disney World was made, that it was like, it's this abandoned swampland that they just built where no one wanted to be. But Discovery Island was actually a place where people wanted to be.
Yeah.
There were people living on the island, so it already had power, a home, dock. So like there was already stuff.
It was big enough to have power?
Mm-hmm. It's 11 acres.
It's a big place.
It's 11 acres.
It looks small when you're on a ferry boat or when you're on the beach of the Contemporary, but when we were there years ago, we took one of the things we did is we rented a boat out to go around Bay Lake, and you get up there and around it, and Discovery Island is huge when you really get up close to it.
Wow.
So 11 acres is pretty significant.
Did you get off and explore it?
No, because you're not allowed. We'll get into that.
1 acre is 100 feet by 400 feet, so you're talking about 10 would be 1,000 by 4,000 feet.
Jeez.
So, you're talking about something that's like, if it's a long, skinny thing, right? If it's all one long, skinny thing, it's like 1,000 feet. It's almost a mile long and a quarter mile wide. Like, that's not insignificant.
Yeah.
Disney buys it. They're building a vacation kingdom, and the very first map comes out, and it labels the island as Blackbeard's Island, a location that would be soon to open at this new vacation kingdom that Disney's opened up.
Blackbeard Island.
In 1974, it finally does open, but it's not called Blackbeard's Island. It's called Treasure Island, after the Disney movie Treasure Island. So I wonder if Bob Iger interned at WDI. It's not like Disney could possibly have always liked the idea of IP in the parks, right?
Well, that's also an Eisner thing too. Like, especially with movies coming out, like Splash Mountain being.
Oh
off
yeah,
the movie Splash.
that's a hysterical story. Like, some people know this, but other people don't. The reason why Splash Mountain is called Splash Mountain is that there was a very popular movie called Splash.
Yeah.
So his brain just was like, people know that word and like it means something to them, so we should use that when we're naming this popular water ride. So, like, IP's always been a thing. It's like so silly for people to be like, oh, IP is ruining this and that. Like, sure, there are some valid complaints in the world of like maybe something's over focus grouped and like corporate sterilized instead of like quirky and magical.
Contemporary.
Like the Enchanted Rose.
You take that back, sir.
Wow.
I can't even get in there. Last time we were there, we couldn't even get in. They have a takeout area now to get a drink and go because of how packed it is.
Oh, fine bar.
So why don't
Weird
you
theme.
just go to, if you're going to be waiting for the Enchanted Rose, you might as well just go to Trader Sam's.
No. We went, got takeout. We got a drink and walked out. But like, that's how packed it is now.
It's
like crazy.
But I'm just saying, like, there's no reason why the Enchanted Rose should be like, oh, wait to get into.
No.
And Trader Sam's is worth a wait.
Yeah.
We agree.
So
It's overrated.
Boys, watch your manners.
Yeah, if you can't say something nice.
Boys.
So Treasure Island, 1974. It's branded as a tropical escape to observe wildlife, but it's not a focused zoo. There's no like exhibits or facilities that would make it like a zoological site, and all the animals are just like animals that happen to be there and in that area. So it's more of a viewing area, and they also have like a fake shipwreck and stuff to make it feel a little like this is a pirate's island that's a kind of a tropically escape, right? Mm-hmm. So it operates as that for 3 years, and then they realize that they need to do a little more with it. 1977, they lean into the zoological aspect, and they rebrand it as a ticketed place called Discovery Island. And it's maybe the first and only documented case of IP being removed from a park. No,
Yeah.
I mean,
wait. Can we think of another one?
well, a lot of times IP will get removed, but for other
IP.
Right, but this is
Because like the Jaws ride in Universal closes and becomes the
Diagon
Harry
Alley,
Potter
yeah.
land, right?
But this is Disney. How dare you bring up Universal?
For the second time.
For the second time during this record day.
You can't give a look at our recording schedule. Come on.
Sorry.
This is a Jeopardy where they filmed 30 episodes in one day.
Yeah, we film this every Monday and it comes out the very next day. As is evidenced by our What We Should Do with Rock and Roller Coaster episode.
Oh my god, that's so funny.
Still sad about Muppets 3D, but whatever. Well, let's do you think Disney will ever take IP away from anything ever again? Like to go from an IP something to no IP?
No.
No.
Or even original IP.
IP is what drives people in.
I agree. I think it's going to be...
No matter how corny or shoehorned it is, it's what brings people in.
And they'll never take something away from something that's known and show something that's not known, right? Like that they have to convince people they like.
I think there's a better chance that we get something that has no IP associated with it from the opening of it than we will that anything that's in one of these parks that has IP branding gets the IP removed from it.
Yeah.
Unless it's just being replaced, whatever. If the Guardians roller coaster in 20 years and Guardians of the Galaxy is irrelevant, maybe it'll get reskinned as something else.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Discovery Island is open and operating, and I remember I went here as a child, and I have some hazy memories because I don't think we were there that long. I remember there was a lot of birds.
Yeah.
There was a bird show. There were a lot of birds. There were tortoises. And I saw the shipwreck because they left the shipwreck that was there from the Treasure Island thing. So I then asked my mom what her thoughts on Discovery Island were. She said it was much slower paced than the rest of Disney World. There was more of a relaxed attitude on the island there that did not match the rest of Disney World.
I did hear that it was like nice to have a picnic on there.
So what she thought, it was like awkwardly too relaxed. Like the people that worked there, like everything about it was just like
something's going on here.
You're like, you guys are like working at the busiest theme park in the world. You can't be this slow at this stuff.
Laundering money.
So did any of you guys
here?
Did either of you guys get to go?
I've never set foot on Discovery Island.
Okay.
No.
So we stayed at Fort Wilderness all the time, and when you're on the Fort Wilderness boat going to Magic Kingdom on some of the boats, but definitely going to the other resorts, you always stop at Discovery Island.
Yep.
And so I remember hounding my parents, like, this is another place that we could go to and we could hang out. Like, this is like another like Magic Kingdom. And my dad being like, no, you don't want to go there, because it was money. You had to pay in order to use it.
It was like $10 extra, or at least it was at some point in time when I did this research.
I remember my parents finally giving in, and I think it was my mom that took me. And I walked around a little bit and said, like, oh, this is boring. Like, I don't want to be here. And that was it.
Yeah. So my memory is not too inaccurate. The A Lot of Birds thing. There are 13 attractions. How many of these attractions, the main feature was birds?
There were 13 attractions on Discovery Island?
Yes.
That's wow.
Well, wait, so are you having us guess?
Yeah, guess.
9.
9.
It's 9.
Just the face you made. I was like, that's the right answer.
He nailed it.
I won't lose this game. I'll push.
There were 9, and so one of them was a bird show, like you would see, kind of like what exists at Animal Kingdom. And in a lot of ways, Discovery Island really is the precursor for Animal Kingdom. It's kind of the beta test of Disney doing something zoological.
Oh, and I bet, like, you're probably going to get to it, but like once Animal Kingdom comes around, why do you need Discovery Island?
Oh, we'll get there.
Yeah,
well, actually, we can get there pretty quickly. But yeah, so there's 9. No,
hurry up, God.
No, I know.
No, I'm kind of getting to that point because honestly, the open part of this attraction of this area isn't the most interesting thing because it's like not very high trafficked. There's 8 bird exhibits, 1 bird show, and 4 exhibits with animals.
What type of animals? Like lizards?
It's that birds.
They had Galapagos tortoises, which is cool.
That is cool.
They had alligators, which I mean, of course, is Florida. They probably couldn't avoid having alligators. There was a monkey colony, which I had no.
Attraction. It's not an attraction. Stay away.
That's not an attraction. Stay away from that gator. So they had the tortoises, and then they had a monkey colony and a lemur exhibit. And I don't remember the monkeys at all. I have a vague memory of seeing lemurs out around that age, but it could have been at the Bronx Zoo or anywhere. But yeah, so not the most memorable place, and was never really super busy. But then on Earth Day 1998, Disney Animal Kingdom opens, and it really goes downhill for them. So much so that within a year, on its literal 25th anniversary of being open, April 8th, 1999, and the day that it opens was April 8th, 1974 as Treasure Island, it closes permanently.
That's how they celebrate.
Yeah, happy 25th anniversary. No one else is ever going to be set foot on this place. We're just going to remove the animals and leave. I think in a previous episode we discussed something about where would the animals go if we demolished
the
safaris.
Yeah.
And I don't know, because when they decided to abandon Discovery Island, they just took all the animals to Animal Kingdom.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you gotta imagine those animals were just sent to animals. Like, I think the monkeys and the lemurs very, very likely are the same.
Right.
Maybe not today, the same ones. Right. The
descendants of these very same
these
monkeys.
animals,
Absolutely.
yeah.
That is
That's
definitely, that is
interesting.
exactly what happened. And there's actually one more thing that Discovery Island technically lives on to this day. So when Animal Kingdom opened, the very center of the park, the hub where the tree is and stuff, was called the Safari Village. And at some point in the early 2000s, maybe it was in 2000, but pretty short after this closes and all the animals are moved and integrated, the center of the park, the river is called Discovery River. The center is now known as Discovery Island.
Which is so much better of a name than Safari
Village.
That's terrible. The Safari's not even close to there.
I know, and it was confusing because it was like, well, why you're putting
Early Animal
Africa
Kingdom was
in the
so bad.
yeah.
So
I mean, we spoke about it recently. There was only like 2 rides,
It was Dinosaur and the Safari. And that was about
and
it.
these animals from Discovery Island.
And these animals around.
Repurposed animals.
So all the animals are settled in. Discovery Island's closed. Do you think Disney does anything with this island?
Nope.
We've talked before about graveyards, Disney graveyards. Yeah.
They don't even cut the power.
Wow.
They just leave the lights on. They leave the music playing.
Mm-hmm.
Like they just leave. They just stop dropping people off there and picking people up there.
Wait, what do you mean the music was still playing? Like, was
The
it on
music-
a timer? Or did it play all day, all night?
I don't know, because there's reports of people like that
I'll
have
talk about
trespassed
that, too.
there
Yeah.
in like as late as like 2010, saying that the music is still playing when you go there.
Yeah.
Like all the lights still work, all this still works. So they literally just abandoned the place.
That's
Yeah.
insane.
Discovery Island, and like I said, I'll touch on it when I talk about my topic. But Discovery Island gets this incredibly weird, eerie, creepy, almost like haunted lore.
Yeah.
And really, it's specifically because of everyone focuses in on the story about like the flesh-eating bacteria in the water as that being the reason why Discovery Island closed. And it's not the reason why Discovery Island closed, but it gets this fascination with it's just sitting out there, like fully operational, but there's just no one there. And that's what leads people to. I watched a video once of a guy that left the Contemporary at like 3:00 in the morning and literally swam out to Discovery Island and like had his camera and took pictures. It's almost like when you see like when they, you see like the scenes in like a Jurassic Park where they find the abandoned abandoned laboratories. It's just overgrown buildings with, they did nothing. They did nothing they just moved the animals.
Yeah.
Lights are still working. The power's still on. You can probably plug something in and charge your phone. Like it's just a completely left alone.
A bunch of people have done that. Like one guy had to blow up Zodiac, right? And then he went out there at like 3 in the morning. Yeah.
There's there's a really interesting YouTube rabbit hole you can go on with people that have documented exploring the abandoned Discovery Island. It's a little hard to get to, and security gets pretty strict there. Although the punishment hasn't seemed too bad. Most people that go there end up with just like $100 trespassing
slap on the wrist or
fine.
Oh, really? I thought that guy got banned from Disney.
Yeah, but that's not a legal thing. That's just
Right, that's just you get kicked. Like
he can't go to Disney, but legally,
that's not illegal. That's not a legal punishment.
That's not-
Oh, well, for me, it's worse. For me, that's the worst thing possible.
No, I'll go to jail for a month.
Please, throw away the key. Not
Wait,
my annual pass.
How many days in prison? Would
I
be
trade?
worth-
Would I
you trade to not get a lifetime ban at Disney World? Like, where's the line? Is it a year?
Well, is it a federal facility or is it like Rikers Island?
Oh, you I don't know. Luck of the draw.
It's Florida.
Yeah.
You get what you get.
We want to know the answer, but also don't want to know the answer.
It's more than a month.
Please remain seated throughout your voyage, keeping your hands, arms, feet, and legs inside the boat.
So yeah, one video that I watched recently was an explorer guy who went during COVID, and he showcased a lot of very weird security measures they have in place now because sneaking over there got so popular.
Yeah.
That they have installed a lot of like advanced like detection things there. And he set one off, and a couple cops came to try to get him, and they realized how big the island was. They sent like a helicopter. They sent so much stuff to find this guy, and the guy ended up swimming back ashore. Like he took like a little crappy boat out, like a canoe or something, and then he ended up. They took his boat. They took everything to try to like smoke him out.
Yeah,
and he ended up swimming.
Which also, swimming in that water
it's not
safe.
a great idea.
Not safe.
Oh, but he's like a crazy wildlife guy, like crazy, like he's the kind of guy that we've all gone on this gator boat tour thing with a guy that
just gets
like,
out into the
gets
water,
out in the water and
alligators.
swims with the alligators.
Yeah.
He's one of those kinds of guys.
Yeah,
he's like a real like
They know him there.
he's a
gators know
real
him.
he's a wild boy, right? Like a like the old show on MTV with Pontius
Wild Boys.
Yeah,
He's Donnie from the Wild Thornberries.
basically.
Oh.
Imagine.
Wild Thornberry.
That'd be a weird video for me to watch with him just like speaking Flea speaking gibberish. That's Flea from the Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Really?
Is the
Yeah.
voice for Donnie.
Oh wow.
Yeah. A fun fact.
That was a good show.
And it's abandoned to this day, and they should probably do something with it at some point. There's still power there, so like, why don't they just like they should put a DVC there?
They could put something like clear it and put like cabanas or some type of like
I mean, it's a
spot out there or something like that. Or I don't know.
11 acres is enough to put
Big
a
enough
little
to do something.
to do something.
Yeah.
11 acres is like, that's
You're probably not putting a hotel there, but
11 acres is about the size of New Fantasyland. So from Rapunzel's bathrooms all the way over, like that whole area.
Not
like,
Rapunzel's bathrooms. New Fantasyland starts with those.
Yeah, the Tangled bathrooms.
Tangled.
That's Rapunzel.
That goes.
Tangled's Rapunzel.
Yeah, but the Tangled bathrooms that goes through all of Fantasyland. You're talking about all Fantasyland is about 11 acres?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Because the new Fantasyland area like starts with those fake castle walls.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
But yeah,
okay,
Fantasyland is about 11 acres.
Wow.
With New Fantasyland.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder if the ground could support a full like
a tower.
Yeah, like a tower. Like that's pretty heavy. Like maybe.
And it's swampland, so who knows how secure the ground is or whatever.
Also, how would you get there? You need to have a.
What do you mean? The same way people get to.
Yeah, but with all your, where do you park? How do you get your all your bags over there? Like there's a lot of problems, logistics to figure out.
A logistical nightmare. Discovery Island.
It would have to be like the Star Wars hotel where you check.
There's a limited number of guests.
Or you check in
this.
on the main land, and then they bring you over.
This is the Pirates Johnny Depp version.
Yes.
Of the
like
Galactic Star Cruiser.
Yeah.
You become a pirate for a couple days on. It's a Black Pearl themed hotel.
And they can probably have they can do bungalows. They could probably do bungalows like hanging out over the water and everything
for $900 a night.
They're expensive.
Go higher.
Yeah, it's way higher.
$900 a night. I don't think that gets you into Grand Flow anymore. You can stay at the Contemporary. God, Contemporary's so overpriced.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's Discovery Island.
Wow, I learned a lot of new things about that place.
Yeah.
9 bird shows.
No.
My biggest takeaway:
1 bird show and 8 other bird
attractions.
What other bird exhibit other than looking at them?
You see a bird, you look at a bird.
Here you go. You want the list? I'll give you the list. Parrots Perch is the bird show. Trumpeter Springs, where you saw trumpeter swans. Vulture's Haunt, where you see Vulture's Haunt, where you see vultures. Which actually there was a problem with Disney and the vultures that were there because there were so many vultures there that they had to try to keep them away, and a lot of the cast members were killing vultures. And PETA sues them in the 90s about this. But for time I cut it from the thing.
Wasn't there a bird issue with Tron, and that's why it took
an endangered species roosted on Tron, and that delayed during the pandemic, and that delayed them restarting the construction for like 2 years.
Yeah. Disney hates birds.
Crane's Roost, where you see cranes. Avian Way, the most extensive breeding colony of scarlet ibis. Pelican Bay, pelicans. Flamingo Lagoon, flamingos. Eagles Watch, bald eagles.
Avian?
Yeah, it's bird.
Yeah, avian means...
I know, but like in this day and age, you say avian, and the next thing you want to say is flu.
People wear masks.
Yeah. Well, thank you, JJ. That was great.
I really took over the episode.
And
we went on a couple different tangents there. There's a lot to, I think, trim there.
Well, some of our tangents were pretty good too. This might just be a long episode.
It's probably going to be a long.
Gonna be,
yeah.
There's no game today.
I'm not even going to ask. There's no game today.
There's no game, guys. Audience members, get prepared. No game.
I have a bad feeling about this.
So our second decommissioned attraction is going to come from Sean, and I think we're staying on Bay Lake, right?
Yeah. We're nearby. I'm going to talk about River Country, something that I have always honestly been fascinated with, because I'm kind of the way JJ talked about Discovery Island just kind of being still just there. I'm always just kind of fascinated by like when Disney closes something. It's just they just let it stay. Like the Galactic Cruiser is probably going to stay there for years until they figure out what to do with it. They just leave things there to, just be, because these areas of Disney World are so off the path that they're not really worried about really anything. But with River Country, it's interesting though because of how close to society River Country really actually is. And I didn't know. I watched a whole video on this, and it's really just fascinating how they just let it just be there. But River Country was born out of the oil crisis in the 70s.
Ooh.
There was a significant downturn, which is only 2 years after Magic Kingdom opened in 1971. In 1973, there was an incredible downturn domestically with tourism because of the oil crisis. Disney World wasn't getting the daily traffic like Disneyland was. Disney World was still, at the moment, relying heavily on people coming in from other parts of the country. So they were trying to think of smaller attractions they could build quickly that didn't cost as much to operate and didn't cost as much to get people in the door, so that maybe they could introduce something smaller, get people there, and they'd stay there, and then they'd get people into Disney World. This idea was River Country, a water park, which at the time, much like Disney's theme parks, went on to become really the model for water parks. River Country introduced the large, like oversized water slides, inner tube rides, and the big, like larger than, the wave pools, your bathing pools. And the thing that was so unique about River Country was that the filtration system used for its water, it came in from Bay Lake. It used fresh water. They brought the water into the park from Bay Lake into the mountain of River Country, filtered it, cleaned it, and it went right back into the park via the water slides, which is how they kind of kept the water always moving, never stagnant, so that there were never bug problems because this water wasn't chlorinated.
Wow!
So it was really a freshwater water park. It was Tom Sawyer themed.
Well, it had amoebas in it.
Yes, we'll get there.
Well, yeah, that was
Tom Sawyer themed to kind of keep with some of the theming from the Magic Kingdom and from Wilderness Lodge. And Treasure Island, Discovery Island, and River Country, the popularity of Treasure Island and Discovery Island is what really drove the idea for this. And these eventually became ticketed items. You could buy basically a pass to do both.
So that kind of makes sense. Like it's a half day.
And River Country, it starts as like an area that they thought people that were staying at Fort Wilderness would use, right?
Yeah. And so
like a pool, like how a hotel would have a pool.
Exactly.
Which would be so cool to have like a legit water park as a amenity for a hotel.
Boardwalk basically
Well,
does, or
the
beach club, yacht club basically do.
That's what they
That's what they wanted to
advertise
market.
with Storm Along Bay.
I know, but it doesn't have like a tube ride. You know what I mean? Like,
It doesn't. It's so popular that it's like overcrowded too.
Yeah,
Like people stay at Yacht and Beach Club just
For the pool.
For the pool.
we stayed there last spring, and we spent like maybe a half hour at that pool, and we're like, we gotta get out of here.
It's crazy.
Let's go to the quiet pool.
Yeah. So June of 1976, River Country opens up, and would you know it? In a previous episode, Andrew spoke about how there were actually two sitting presidents who have never visited Walt Disney World. One was Donald Trump. Who was the other one?
Gerald Ford.
The first person to ever ride down a water slide in River Country was Gerald Ford's daughter.
Really?
The inaugural trip down the slide. So maybe he was never there, but his daughter took the first ride down a
Well, now I'm gonna have to look up
water slide
my source
at,
again. Make sure I was
at
right.
Disney World's River Country.
Wow.
And River Country was immensely popular. Got lots of people back to that part of the park, and for about 13 years, it sat. It did its job. It was one of the best things Disney World had going. In the 80s, they opened up their other parks, and because of the other parks opening up, tourism to Disney World grew and grew and grew, and eventually, River Country was getting a little too big for the amount of people that were coming in. It was only 5 acres. It was small.
They needed another water park, right?
Yeah, which led to, in 1989, the opening of Typhoon Lagoon, which absolutely dwarfed River Country. So the popularity of Typhoon Lagoon and how big it was, how many more people it could hold, got people away from River Country. River Country started to go down in attendance. It very quickly became something that had sort of a cult following. The only people that were really going there were people that wanted to seek out going to River Country and people that were staying at Fort Wilderness because they were basically using that as their pool.
Yeah.
And then in the 90s, the opening up of Blizzard Beach basically spelled doom for River Country because it was another water park to draw people away from River Country. And then also later in the 90s, more water parks and water attractions were opening up in Florida, which were the idea of the freshwater water park started to turn people off as higher chlorinated and cleaner facilities started to open up not only in Disney World itself but in other areas of Florida.
Yeah. I mean, also you're talking about a water park with rides from the 70s compared to the water slides that are featured at Blizzard Beach, these much more advanced, thrilling, taller, larger scale, immersive themed. Like it's
and like at River Country, you're like swinging on
River
a rope.
Country was never really heavy in it had the Tom Sawyer theme, but it really wasn't like the water slides were just water slides.
Yeah,
there weren't larger than life characters, or there wasn't a giant shipwreck at the top of a mountain.
That is so cool at Typhoon Lagoon. I will say that.
Another big thing which kind of turned people away was because the water was natural water, the water wasn't heated. So colder days, colder seasons, if the park didn't just downright close for the day because of the temperatures, there'd be no guests. Because the water, they had no way to heat the natural water. So the natural downturn in tourism after 9/11 is what really closed River Country, because it always closed in the winter months because of the water temperature. It would always close for a couple months in the wintertime for refurbishment, and also because no one was swimming in January in unheated water. So in 2001, it closed, which was only a couple years after Discovery Island closed, which also really hurt people's attendance to River Country because there was really no more reason to buy the ticket. You couldn't go to Discovery Island. This was just basically a large pool for the hotel.
Yeah.
So Disney closed River Country the winter after 9/11, and it stayed closed for 2 years with absolutely no... Disney just kind of like, who? What? It's whatever. It's River Country's... Don't talk about it. And then in 2005, they officially announced that this park is not reopening.
Okay.
And they just left it. The music played every night. The lights went on the slides every night. It was just the park operated as it would.
I wonder if the water worked.
The water stayed in the pools. But because it was fresh water, really unmaintained, it just the park very, very quickly became just completely overgrown and, mold and mildew and things growing. Like it turned into really a graveyard of a park very quickly. And there was thought to in 2000, I believe it was 2007 or 2008, there was supposed to be an add-on to Wilderness Lodge called Buffalo Junction.
Oh.
This hotel was going to be basically where the new hotel is going to be now, and it was going to be an add-on to Fort Wilderness, which would revitalize and expand River Country and sort of reopen River Country and add a new land or a new part to it. It was supposed to be Wild West themed. That ended up not happening, and more just River Country just sat for years. In 2017, Disney finally began to fill in the pools. They filled them in with dirt, filled them in with sand, and they started doing land surveys to see what could be done with the land. It's been sitting for so long. It's been a water park. Like, what can we do?
They didn't take out the pools. They just filled them in.
They just filled them, completely filled them.
This is going to be like a Pet Cemetery.
And this, I was going to say, this is
take out the pools.
This is. They finally started. They finally started dismantling parts of River Country in 2019, and the area of River Country will officially finally be completely forgotten and gone, because that is where the Riverside Reflections hotel is going to be.
Right.
The Lakeside Lodge, right?
Yeah.
That's where it's going to be, and that's the land that River Country is on, and that is where it will be something that River Country will no longer exist in any capacity.
And it would have been nice if they opened it up and again, like, just made it chlorinated and not using the lake water, and because the Fort Wilderness has like the worst pools. The worst pools. So it would have been cool, a nice little thing for, even if you made it smaller. And just a couple cool things for the Fort people.
And to the Fort people.
Yeah.
And similar
That's
to
what they call them.
Similar to Discovery Island, River Country has kind of always had this kind of weird, haunted, spooky lore about why it's abandoned, why it's closed. In 1982, a kid did drown and die in River Country, but I mean, it closed in 2002, so that had nothing to do with it.
Right.
The flesh-eating bacteria thing was very real, but that was also in the 80s. Had nothing to do with its closing. It's just really downturn in tourism, and really a gimmicky idea in the 70s that just didn't translate too well 30 years later.
Yeah.
Once heated pools became a thing,
and
once
water
everyone
parks were more
demanded
common.
Cleanliness of the water, like chlorinated levels of cleanliness in water.
And one thing that because I always, when we talk about how Disney just lets things die, or not die, just decay, that why River Country was left just in kind of disarray and abandoned for so long. There's never been a full confirmation of this, but the video I watched kind of went on to infer that, well, not infer, but it is true that every year all the hotels in Disney World, they have a budget. They have a certain amount of money that they can allocate towards upgrades, facilities, things like that. And technically, River Country is the responsibility of Fort Wilderness.
Wow.
So anything they would do, clean, upkeep, demolish, millions of dollars, they've just decided it's just not worth allocating. So the thought process is Fort Wilderness doesn't want to pay for it out of their budget, because eventually Disney's going to want to do something with the land, and they'll just pay for it. They'll demolish it themselves, and they'll do it. But I always would see videos and pictures of people going up so close to River Country. It is literally out the back door of some of the areas. When River Country closed, they just put like chain link fences up. And in the future, to kind of keep people out, they put walls up. But like, you can walk right out of Fort Wilderness, right up to a wall, peek over it, and you see the pools. It's right there.
Yep.
There, again, another YouTube rabbit hole you can go down is people really, this is worse footage, because it's got to be probably before like 2018, because they did start clearing that in like 2019, right? Because of preparation for what was Reflections and is now going to be this Lakeside Lodge.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of interesting footage of people. Now that is a way more interesting visual the abandoned water park looks so much cooler
Yeah.
than the abandoned Discovery Island.
The abandoned Discovery Island is creepy.
Creepy, yeah.
Yes, because
Yes.
it's abandoned build. It's like overgrown stuff, and these like buildings look very creepy, overgrown and stuff.
Like Jurassic Park.
Yes,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
very yes.
But yeah, so
Oh, it's
I've
very
always
interesting.
been kind of fascinated
Very cool.
by Discovery Island and or River Country, and yeah, it's a little.
You know what's funny is that all three of us picked a topic where urban exploration was like a major theme.
Well, I think because that means because the internet, our algorithms remind us of this stuff with like because it's interesting. So a lot of YouTube videos about all three of these things.
Right.
You know,
and I think people's interest in like the thing like Defunct Land
Yeah.
is kind of drives.
Oh yeah,
the interest
that too.
in-
Yeah.
River Country was another thing that our family was never allowed to do. Cost extra. Yeah. if you're not
We came
going
all the way to
parks-
Disney, but we're not going to spend money.
No, well, not on that. We're just going into the park every day. We gotta get our money's worth.
From open to close.
Open to close.
Wait a minute. I love that idea.
All right, so let's talk about a little show that is near and dear to me called Cranium Command.
Where are you taking us?
So I'm taking you to Epcot, and I'm taking you to the late 80s, early 90s. That's where most of our story is going to be here. Into the Wonders of Life Pavilion. And that pavilion is not there right now. It was going to be reimagined into the Play Pavilion with this most recent update to Epcot. But, of course, as plans with Disney always happen, things go awry, right?
It's
COVID happened.
also for those that aren't aware of where that was supposed to be. It's in between the Guardians of the Galaxy roller coaster and Mission Space.
Right. And so this was called the Wonders of Life Pavilion, and as its name would suggest, it focused on life and healthcare. And it was always meant to be a pavilion in Epcot that was dedicated to healthcare and to life, but they didn't get it open for the first phase of Epcot, so it had to go to phase 2. And so it was in development in the late 80s and ended up being built in 1989. So in this Wonders of Life Pavilion, there was a show called Cranium Command. And this show focused on an inside view of, it was a theater where you were viewing the inside of a head, right? You were from the perspective of inside a head looking out through the eyes. And that's where all the action happened, really, or a lot of the action happened was in the screens of the eyes.
Because of the Cranium Command.
Yes,
Right,
because you're in
the
command.
brain.
The Cranium Command Center. You're in the brain, looking out the eyes of a boy, right? A little
Yes,
boy.
yeah, a 12-year-old boy.
Yeah.
So
Great.
cranium, meaning brain, right? And command, meaning you're in control. This wasn't the first iteration, though. It was going to be very different. So I have like a little backstory here, right? So the concept was developed in the late 1980s as part of Disney's initiative to create attractions blending education and entertainment, right? That's Epcot's
That's just Epcot.
What's the word?
edutainment.
There he is.
Yes.
First try, guys.
That's not going on the bloopers.
First try.
So Disney went outside of their own production company and went to a production company called Colossal. And this company worked on the first show. And the first show is resoundingly not good. Everyone agrees. The first show, except for the director of who directed it. But everyone thinks that this first show was terrible. And they got almost to like printing the show and gonna put it into the theater. But Jeffrey Katzenberg saw it and hated it. Absolutely hated it. Him and Michael Eisner were like, this is terrible, right? So they went to Colossal and they said, hey, so, real cool. Thank you so much. Great job here. We're just going to take it over, make a couple edits, right? And we're going to pay you extra as a kill switch because, we're not using your final product. But yeah, we're just going to take a couple things and just tweak it. They changed the entire thing. So the first show, it seemed like it was done by committee. Like there's too many cooks in the kitchen. It was very patronizing, and it was an educational video that kind of talked down to the audience. It also I've listened to a little bit of it because the audio for the show is out there, and it makes me think of what in 2024 what an AI would make for a lesson plan. Like, this happens. Now, what do you think should happen next? Let's find out.
Oh, so it's like an episode
of Dora the Explorer.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah.
Okay.
And it was just like, oh man, we can't, in an already boring theme park, we can't put this in here. Like, this is still boring, right? So they go to
Eisner's trying to get a big ticket star to put his name on this, and he goes, can't do it.
Can't do it. They go to this guy named Jerry Reese. And Jerry Reese, who's known for directing The Brave Little Toaster. You guys know that movie?
Oh,
Sure
A
do.
little flick right there.
Reese, not the
GM of the
New York
Giants.
No. Jerry Reese, he is all over Disney parks. He's done... he had just finished directing the Indiana Jones Epic Stunt Spectacular. He did Sounds Dangerous. So he did a lot of those original Disney MGM studios.
That was fun. I liked that when I was a kid.
Sounds Dangerous.
Because they played with the binaural audio. So like they had stuff that would like feel like it was coming from behind you, even though you're wearing headphones.
Yeah.
So
it was like 3D audio.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh Canada. He did Extraterrestrial Alien Encounter.
God bless him.
He did the pre-ride show at Dinosaur. So that was him.
So he's responsible for Dr. Seeker?
Yes. He did Rock and Roller Coasters pre-show.
Oh, wait a minute. I love this man.
He did Mystic Manor.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So he's all over the place. And so he looks at this and he says, first of all, the main character, his name was Captain Cortex. And he goes, no, Captain Cortex is kind of mean, actually, and he's not a likable person. We need to make him more likable. So they changed the name to Buzzy, and they make him more like you guys, right? Like just one of the guys, kind of like, I don't know, just... I saw my 12-year-old self a lot in Buzzy, right? It kind of makes him a little bit of a kid, but,
Yeah, I'd never thought of Buzzy as a man. Or one of the bros.
No?
No, I thought of him as like a fellow child.
Yes. Okay. But I guess I'm saying from the perspective of a 12-year-old here.
I'm not grabbing a beer with Buzzy.
No. So
getting a buzz with Buzzy.
So for Buzzy, think like Radar from MASH. Like that's what.
Okay.
Like,
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
That's a real dated reference for our audience.
Well, in 1989, that wasn't so dated.
You're giving this presentation in 35 years later.
So Jerry Reese is going to change the whole thing. First, he's going to use the eyes more often. The eyes were pretty much shut off the entire video, and then whenever the cranium Captain Cortex would say, "Let's see what happens," then the eyes would come on, and you would, so you weren't really viewing anything. And he wanted this to be more of a story, more of a narrative, and it would be more exciting. A lot of the reviewers that reviewed Cranium Command said it was a little bit of MTV meets E.T. And so I kind of like that because it is a little crazy in that things are always changing, right? And it's like a very fast pace. And so at the time, MTV was like the epitome of fast pace. You know what I mean? Okay, so one of the best things to come out of this was the pre-show. So the pre-show...
We love a good pre-show.
Oh, this should have been on our list. Like, you can go and watch this.
Didn't you have this?
I think I did.
Yeah,
I think I
you
did
definitely
have
had this.
Yeah, I think maybe it was an honorable mention.
Yeah, we maybe just didn't use it because it's defunct.
Because it's defunct. But
maybe we were just like, I don't remember this.
This nerd.
The pre-show is really, really impressive. It's really good. Has some great clips in it, right? It's where you meet general knowledge, right? He's the guy that is putting Buzzy and all the other army recruits into the heads of the people for them in order to operate those. All right. So I guess we'll pause here and go over the premise of the show. So the premise of the show is that Buzzy, this little guy, gets
One of the guys.
One of the boys
gets placed into a brain of a 12-year-old, and now these little people get placed into everyone's brains, right? So one of them goes into an NFL star's brain, another one goes into like a doctor or scientist, another one, they say you could have gone into Albert Einstein, or you could go into a chicken. You could be operating a chicken, right? So there's a little guy in everyone's brain, and Buzzy's going into a 12-year-old adolescent's brain, which is supposed to be the most high stress brain that you could be put into. Was a 12-year-old adolescent, which I kind of get, puberty and everything,
hormones and
general knowledge.
I've got way more stress now than I did when I was 12.
General knowledge is the one that facilitates all of this, right? And the pre-show kind of introduces all of that. So the directors of this pre-show was the first time they've ever directed animation. Right, they were animators, but this is their first directing job, and this is one of them is Kirk Weiss, and Katzenberg saw this pre-show afterwards, after it was done, loved it so much that he went to the two directors and said, "You guys are doing our next movie. It's called Beauty and the Beast."
Wow!
And so that's how we get Beauty and the Beast, is from these guys doing such a bang up job, such a gangbuster job. Such a great job.
Wait.
I'm very excited about this.
Why can't you say bang up job?
Is that a bad thing? No, it's a good thing. Bang up job.
No, that was good.
All right, I want to go back.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to apologize for our slight technical difficulties, but I do wish to assure you that no one was hurt, and this theater suffered only minor damage.
They did Beauty and the Beast, Hunchback of Notre Dame, right? And so it's, we have those two movies because of how good of a job they did on the pre-show, which is awesome. I highly recommend going on to YouTube, watching it. You can watch the whole show on YouTube. It's only like 20 minutes long. So I just want to talk about time frame here.
Okay.
May 89, they get the show, the attraction from Colossal, and they turn it around by October 89 and release it. So just a couple months.
Well, they're not spending 3 years, in focus groups.
No.
There's like 3 people making calls saying like, fix it. And they're going, yep, let's fix it.
So that was, Jerry Reese says that in an interview. He says like, we really had no oversight. Like they were just like, guys, go fix this. And then, everyone's just crossing their fingers, hoping that it comes out good. Right. The guys that made the pre-show made it in 6 weeks, which is like insane. Wow. Right. And they did such a good job on it. So one thing I thought would be cool is to go over all the main characters here, right? Real cool, right? So there was all of the main characters are your like body parts and emotions in your head, right? So Buzzy is controlling the body and is in command of the body, right? But then he has to work with all the other systems of the body, like the left brain and the right brain. Left brain is logical and analytical. The right brain is creative and whimsical. He has to work with the stomach, who's always hungry and always wants you to send down food. The bladder, who's always panicked and urgent because the bladder is always full for this adolescent kid.
This kid have some sort of issue.
No, it's just
diabetic.
In the story, he wakes up and he has to go to the bathroom, but he's late for school, so
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, like when you have to pee when you first wake up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is like body functions inside out.
Right. I was gonna say it would be so like interesting if they bring this back somehow with Inside Out, because you're talking about this, I'm like, you're just talking about Inside Out.
Yeah.
Right. Well, these are functions of the body, while Inside Out is all about emotions.
Yeah.
Yeah. The adrenal gland is energetic and overreactive. Then you have the heart and the hypothalamus.
I think that's close enough.
I think that's close enough.
It's close.
Hypothalamus.
Hypothalamus.
Hypothalamus. So here's the plot. The show followed Buzzy as he navigated a typical day, encountering challenges, and learned to balance the needs of various body parts. So he wakes up hungry, having to go to the bathroom, which are consistent jokes throughout the whole show. You know, the stomach is always complaining. The bladder is always complaining. Hey, throw down a burger, throw down some breakfast here. But he's late to school. Of course, there's a love interest. There's a bully. There's a food fight. Everything that you would find in a 1980s coming-of-age movie, right, is all thrown into this 20-minute video. Buzzy keeps on messing up with and he can't get all the body parts to agree. All the body functions are like yelling at each other. There's chaos, right? And then finally he's able to, wrangle them and take control of the situation, take control of like the anxiety and very Inside Out, right? And have a successful day, right?
This show
gotta take control of the bladder.
Tell me when we're allowed to talk about the show itself and how we felt about it.
Are we not yet talking about the show?
No, this is the show.
Am I allowed to talk about how the show made me feel when I would watch it?
Let's wait for the end of that.
Okay. All
right.
We're taking questions only at the
end. So you mentioned how Eisner had to have people in,
he needs
all
a star.
famous people, right? So all of these guys are like stars, right? So Charles Grodin is the left brain. So you'll know him from Beethoven, The Heartbreak Kid. The right brain is John Lovitz, right? That's great. He's known from Saturday Night Live and The Wedding Singer. The stomach is George Wendt.
Okay.
So that's from Cheers, right? Norm from Cheers. Dana Carvey is the heart.
Okay.
Oh, well, it's Dana Carvey and it's who's the other guy? They reprise their role from Saturday Night Live where they're the pumping.
Kevin Nealon.
Yes.
Yeah. Kevin Nealon and Dana Carvey.
Pick things up and put them down.
Yeah, we're gonna pump
you up.
Yeah, right? And so of course, like that makes they're in those characters. And they're like, because they're pumping the heart. Right?
Huh.
Adrenal gland. Yeah, the adrenal gland is Bobcat from Police Academy. So which makes so much sense, right? And the hypothalamus is Kirk Wise, who's the director of the pre-show. He just had such a boring voice because the hypothalamus is just such a boring, function. So really, they have a great cast of actors, all of them playing their parts perfectly. It was really great. Unfortunately, it became seasonal in 2004. And permanently closed in 2007. But the theater remained intact for years, leading to urban exploration videos, just like Discovery Island.
Weren't they also like this is they were taking stuff out of it? People were like taking props,
Yeah, so the Buzzy animatronic just sat there, right? And it's actually, for its time, it was a very advanced animatronic. It was the first one to have hydraulics and the traditional, I forget what the term is called, but the traditional way that animatronics worked plus hydraulics. It was one of the first ones to have that.
It's an A100, right? Because it was the A, like, it goes up. It was like the A1 and then the A100. Now we're the A1000s are the current generation.
Oh, really? Oh, cool.
Of animatronic.
T1000.
Just like Terminator, yes. But they were saying A, so it's different.
So Buzzy,
not sentient.
Buzzy was left in there alone, and it wasn't like it was closed off. Actually, a lot of the cast members could go there. There was like stories of cast members would have lunch with Buzzy. Like they would go in there for their lunch break and just hang out.
One of the guys.
Yeah, just like one of the guys. So it wasn't that big of a deal because the Wonders of Life Pavilion, even when everything was shut down, it was used as the festival pavilion. It would have like the wine and dine in there. And...
Yeah, the middle area, even after the Wonders of Life Pavilion closed, they would still use it sometimes for certain events.
So there was tons of cast members still in there, and they would go in there all the time. Like it wasn't that big of a secret. But then one day, the clothing of Buzzy, at least the jacket and the hat, went missing. And then there's stories of that Buzzy himself is missing, but that has not been confirmed. Disney never confirmed that the animatronic is gone. It's just that the clothes was found online, and we know that the clothes.
Oh, I thought it was the whole thing that got stolen.
No, not the whole. Well, maybe.
We don't know.
We don't know.
They won't confirm it.
They won't confirm it, and now you can't get in. Yeah, so that got a lot of attention, and I feel like Cranium Command got a lot of fake nostalgia after that. Like a lot of people.
Nothing says Disney fandom like fake nostalgia. For things.
Exactly.
Something that was kind of good from 25 plus years ago is the greatest thing of all time.
Yeah. My family, like, I loved it. It was one of my had to do in Epcot every time we went, and I feel like the Wonders of Life Pavilion was our generation's pavilion. Like the rest of Epcot Future World was like kind of boring, and I mean until Test Track came out, right? But like my brother, my sister, my sisters, they all really liked the Wonders of Life Pavilion, and then when I 8-year-old Andrew loved going in there because there was so much to do. Body Wars was cool. I liked that video.
They had some interactive stuff in the main floor too, right? I remember something with like using a bike, and it taught you something. There was like some stationary bike thing that like powered to this, and you could you learned something. I don't remember what I learned, but I learned something.
Yeah.
I remember what I remember of Cranium Command is that it made me so anxious. I don't know if it just did a good job of making you feel what the boy was feeling, but like I didn't hate it, but it made me very nervous and uneasy. Like I watched it and was like, I was worried about myself.
He was losing control of his bladder.
No, not that I was losing control of my. Well, maybe I don't know. more along the lines of like the anxiety that it feels on the attraction. Like it just felt too real. Like it felt like the boy was worried about something and that I would worry about, and I was like, I don't like this. Like, not a place where you forget stuff. It's a place where you're painfully reminded of like all of your anxieties and your like all the things that you're worried about every day. It's just like
Well, it was well received and it had good reviews and.
I remember I didn't not like it. It just was like one of the things, like there was a section, and I think that just spoke to how good it was. That made you feel something. Like it made me feel nervous. Like then I think that was it was good. It was good enough to make you transport you and make you feel something.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I remember young me all about escapism, preferring Body Wars.
Yeah. Body Wars. Well, because it was a ride. And
Body Wars
show.
was Star Tours.
Yeah.
It was the same exact vehicles as Star Tours, and it was just through the bloodstream.
That was definitely the E-ticket attraction in there, and and Cranium Command was like the C. It was
but I do vaguely remember that my dad liked Cranium Command. I think he liked the Pump You Up sketch, the Saturday Night Live thing.
Yeah.
I think he liked Dana Carvey and Kevin.
There's a lot of good adult humor in it.
Yeah.
Not adult humor meaning like
but jokes that are that are references to media that was not in kid world. Like
the right brain at one point, because they're looking at the love interest, says like, oh my God, I love how your eyes pop in this fluorescent light, or like this fluorescent tube light, because like you're in a school and you got the fluorescent tubes. You know what I mean? Like things like that. Like a kid is not thinking that, but an adult,
right?
You're like, no one looks good in those lights.
Is that what you tell Is that what you say to yourself every day? No one looks good in these lights.
Don't worry about how you look at work. So I do want to point out, you guys had mentioned Inside Out, right? So Pete Docter was an animator on the pre-show who went on to direct and create Inside Out.
Name's Pete Docter?
Yep.
Yeah, he's the director of, right?
Yeah, now he's the chief creative officer of Pixar.
Wow, Pete Docter.
He directed Inside Out, Monsters, Up, and Soul.
Oh.
So the idea of Inside Out, and he said, came straight from Cranium Command.
Yeah.
So it gave us The Hunchback of Notre Dame, the Beauty and the Beast that we know, right? And Inside Out.
Amazing.
Yeah, pretty good. It remains a cherished memory for many Disney fans, including me. Do you remember Cranium Command at all?
I learned about it today for the first time.
Really?
I only went to Disney as a kid. Really went to Epcot as a kid one time, and it was very just like try to see everything. I might have done it. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like I have some memory of doing the Honey I Shrunk the Audience.
It could have been forgettable.
Intervention, maybe. Like I do have.
It is. I mean, I
have memory of doing Interventions. Body Wars sounds familiar.
I would imagine you probably just skipped Cranium Command.
It could be.
Did you do Oh, but you probably had a chance to do it as an adult, the Ellen ride.
Mm-hmm.
When you went, did you go on test track as a kid?
No, I went on test track for the first time probably on my senior trip.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
So many good quotes too, especially from that pre-show. Like
I'm gonna have to watch the pre-show again.
Now listen up, you miserable toads. Because
that means nothing to me.
No, I know. It was just funny. General knowledge is like your like classic Full Metal Jacket type of general, right? And whoever plays him, I don't know who plays him, but was so good at it.
Is it the same as the sergeant from Toy Story?
I wouldn't be surprised if it was.
No, that is Full Metal Jacket.
The guy that does Full Metal Jacket. That's the Army.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I don't think it's him. But
what is it, Captain? What?
No, it's General Knowledge.
General knowledge.
Get it?
Where do you think you are, Disney World?
Is that what that's from?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and that's another thing that this pre-show did, and a lot of pre-shows during this time did. They would talk directly to the audience, like breaking the fourth wall. Like it's not like you weren't playing with them. Like in Guardians of the Galaxy, they talk to you because you're in the story. In this, you weren't in the story. Like you have nothing to do with the story, but yet the general knowledge would then look at you and be like, what are you guys still doing standing here? Get those strollers. Get moving. Go.
Yeah.
Kind of like a joke, breaking the fourth wall. Is interesting.
I mean, I do think that's something that they kind of learned from doing the foreign parks, is that a lot of people internationally preferred being inserted into the story,
being part of it. Yeah.
Instead of
just watching
the story passively.
Right. Mm-hmm.
It's like, so that's the difference. If you look at rides that have been created in the last 10 or 15 years and you compare them to the classics like Our Pirates and Haunted Mansion and Peter Pan, you're passively watching something that is happening. You're observing a story and you're immersed in the story that's unfolding around you. But now on rides like Guardians, Rise of Resistance, you're not passively watching a story. You're one of the characters in the story.
Mm-hmm. Right. And actually that does it does work out with the story of Snow White. When they first had Snow White in Disneyland, everyone was asking, "Where's Snow White? Where's Snow?" And then like they would have to explain, "Oh no, you're supposed to be Snow White." And they're like, "What do you mean I'm Snow White? I want to see Snow White."
So they basically started doing what they thought was what naturally would happen, which is what they did in the foreign parks.
Yeah.
But they went maybe a little too far. Like if you're doing a Snow White ride, you need to see Snow White. Maybe you could be
helping Snow White.
Dwarf. You could do it maybe you could tell a story about Snow White from the dwarf's perspective. Right. So like you're not missing out on the key elements, but you're more in the story.
Yeah.
Than being us being on the, just a passive onlooker.
Yeah.
And it's interesting how they've evolved in that.
All right, so that's Cranium Command, guys. I definitely recommend going and watching it on YouTube. Also, there are the Retro Disney World podcast just came out with an interview from not Jacob Reese. That's Muckraker. Jerry Reese came out with a interview with Jerry Reese that is good if you're interested in any more information on it.
Why didn't we get Jerry Reese?
We could work on getting him next time.
Next time we talk about Cranium Command, we'll get Jerry Reese.
Well, let's pick out one of the other things that he's done. Extraterrestrial Alien Encounter. Let's do that one. Or the pre-show of Dinosaur. We just get him to come on and talk about the pre-show of Dinosaur.
We get him and Dr. Seeker.
Yeah, that would be great interview.
I knew you'd get it because you got a wonderful imagination.
Okay, I'm not going to bog you guys down even asking about the game thing this time. So, Sean, you want to send us out?
Thanks for listening to another episode of the ReedyGeeks podcast. Rate, review, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Any comments, questions, ideas, future topic suggestions, email us at reedygeeks@gmail.com and find us on all our socials at ReedyGeeks. See you next time.
That's all, folks.
This week's Honest Send-Off comes courtesy of Sam from Long Island. If you have an honest send-off that you want played at the end of one of our episodes, please submit an audio clip to us via our email address, reedygeeks@gmail.com. ReedyGeeks, a Walt Disney World podcast, is hosted and executive produced by Andrew Shopey, Sean Murphy, and JJ Hefner. Music and audio engineering by JJ Hefner.
Bon voyage.